Hi folks, and a warm welcome back to our HMO mini-series, episode 5, our final episode of this particular round. And we're going to be talking today about things that tenants want. It's the work, it's the live, and it's the play when it comes to HMOs, and what things you can consider, including both practical and some really small finishes that can make huge effects to not only letting the property in the first place, but void avoidance, to try and increase your average tenant's yield. So, without further ado, we're going to crack straight on. Now, the caveat here is, although this is episode 5, it also should be some of the considerations that you should have even before you decide on where, in episode 2, the location is going to be. First and foremost, work. The work part has changed significantly when it comes to HMOs within the last 3 or 4 years. Today being 2023, and the reason for that is the pandemic and the prevalence of working from home and the number of work from home jobs available to the average person is a real strong consideration if you're going into the co-living work from home space. Now, if your tenant type is co-living, you're going for busy business professionals or even work from home consultants such as in the NHS, you may have to consider where is the workspace within your environment. And do you want that workspace to be in the communal area, or do you want a workspace in their room? So if you're putting desks in, are you using the best use of space is sometimes to have a breakfast bar style workspace with a few sockets and maybe an internet port when you're going through the build program. So one of our properties is a real example of this. We have the communal TV for the kitchen area, and then we have underneath a breakfast bar that people can eat at, or they have dividers and they can work at, and they have ports and USBs and so on and so forth. So just a little tip as to one of the things that we've seen in terms of changes and adaptations. Secondly, can they actually work from home? Have you provided quick enough internet? So super fast internet is a really key thing if your tenant type is the busy business professional. If you're looking at a different type of tenant type, such as social tenant type, or you're looking at a student tenant type, then work isn't really a consideration necessarily to be able to work from home traditionally. But certainly for the busy business professional, you should be considering where is this person going to work at a fundamental level. And if you work for 8 hours, you also need to make that workstation comfortable. The seating arrangement for your workstations and work environments for the busy business professional has to be a comfortable environment. So that includes seating, maybe not the plastic or just the static wooden chair that you used to have, but a proper office chair that you can put in there. Where are the screens going to go? Are you putting in really small desks into the HMOs just because you've got a small amount of space? If so, where are you going to put the screens? If someone has to work from home and they need more than one screen, then you may want to consider putting something on there that is a bracket or something that they can have over and above, or maybe a stand that they can attach screens to on the smaller desk if they have a laptop or a desktop. And finally, the big consideration from working from home is the power needs. They're going to spend a lot more money working from home, so it's really important if you're coming into an environment where you've got bills included, that you are considering the extra electrical costs in your room rates. And it's certainly, if somebody wants to work from home and you can charge that little bit more, I would suggest you do that. Some people I know have sub-meters put into bedrooms for those that want to work from home or for top-ups or etc. And that's another good idea. But your fair usage policy should include the work from home element. And if people want to work from home, they should declare it, and they should be telling you that that's what they're going to be doing, because there's going to be an additional cost to you as the landlord. The second part of the workspace is something that, again, you need to consider very early on in your HMO journey. How are these people going to get to work? I've seen HMOs in rural locations have long void periods for the simple reason that there is no transport available. Now, we put bike racks in most of our HMOs because we want to have sustainable transport, and that's always a good idea. But biking in the UK is not necessarily an everyday occurrence, and you should be trying to find the location of the property close to really good, solid networks. And I'm not talking the one bus 3 times a day. I'm talking main road areas, I'm talking close to town centres, close to universities if it's student lets that you're doing, because it becomes about where are these people going to work, and there needs to be lots of employment in the local area. And one of the key things that you can do there is look at the population density of the area and the local transport networks. Because if it's a highly dense population, it means lots of people want to live there, and they want to live there for a reason. Generally, it's because the availability to work close by, and they will want to be able to commute from your HMO location. Hospitals, great idea. Large employers are a great idea. These types of things where you have good transport links, main bus routes, main train routes, and in Manchester specifically, main tram routes give you great HMO exposure for the commuter to be able to get to and from work within a reasonable time frame. So there's some great tips in terms of considerations for the work part. The next is the live. This is the most essential thing to consider for your tenant type. If you are going for a busy business professional, they want comfortable living environments. If you are going for the social environment, then your tenant type is going to be dictated by your provider, and quite often you need to provide a more basic provision, because they may bring their own things in, such as mattresses or bedsteads. But if you are providing bedsteads and you are providing mattresses and so on and so forth, then a great thing to do is to consider whether or not which level of the professional you're going for. Is it top end or is it bottom end? The HMOs that perform the best are always the nicest rooms, the ones that fit out really, really well. Because in today's world, 50 quid for an extra room, for an extra bit of facility in your room, is not a lot of money to the average busy professional. They would prefer to live comfortably. And one of the most important key things is, where does this person relax? Do you have a central community area where this person can relax outside of their workspace? And I mean relax. I'm not talking about sitting at a breakfast bar. I'm talking about relax. Because if you don't, then you need to provide that in the room. You need to have something where it's a comfortable seated area for this person and or a guest. If they have, they might have their friend from another HMO room to come in, spend some time with them, or they may have a guest staying overnight. You want them to be able to sit comfortably somewhere in that property. That is really key from a void avoidance point of view. If you've nowhere to sit, you're going to get very bored very quickly just having a bed to sit on or a work chair. It's going to get really, really uncomfortable really, really quickly, and it will affect your voids. Ideally, a great communal space that somebody can live in, where you can build a community of people, and even little breakout areas. If you've got extra room in a corridor where there's a little table, maybe a couple of chairs, something like that. Really good seated space with it throughout your HMO. It's going to create a great community feel and a great homely feel for those that are putting seats in the room. A good comfortable chair where they can watch TV and relax, as well as a bed in a room, goes a long, long way for a HMO tenant. I lived in HMOs. I now build HMOs. I guarantee you, seated space is what makes or breaks the HMO experience. So please, please, please consider that in your live area. Second thing to your live area, have good house rules. Make sure your house rules have rotas for things like bin duties, for things like general cleanliness. Have the communal areas cleaned regularly, and have your communal area people who are cleaning do a quick check report for you while you're there. This is another thing for the live area. Is a very, very clean, very well run communal space. We have multicolored bins for different recycling in each of our HMOs. And we have the communal space cleaned at least once, and if it's more than 5 people, twice a month, to be able to keep that space as clean and as tidy as possible. It's almost impossible for you to stay on top of each and every tenant. So having solid house rules that make it very clear on what's going to happen if everyone leaves teaspoons or cups or mugs or uses different somebody else's stuff. What will happen with that within that tenancy environment? We also label everything. So each of our fridges has a label on every drawer. Each of our cupboards has a label on that tells them which area is theirs. Possession is something that is really important to tenants. They want a safe space that they can leave their food, that they can leave their refrigerated items, and having a labelled space. So if your fridge isn't big enough to have at least one each, then you're going to have to consider putting a small fridge, maybe a small kitchenette in one of the HMO rooms. And that then comes onto other fire risk considerations and whether or not you have the right alarm system, whether you don't have the right alert system within that room. Also on living, how do you control the heating within the living area? It has to be warm. Now, I've had HMOs where we have not wall mounted the heat sensors, and I've had tenants literally put the thermostat in the fridge. So it's never going to reach temperature. It's always going to be below 10 degrees, and the heating is going to be constantly on. So there are some really, really great HMO-friendly, landlord-friendly thermostats available that allow you to maintain the heating and temperature controls off-site as the HMO landlord. This is a really important thing for you because in the medium term, regardless of the gas prices, regardless of the energy prices, it's going to actually dictate how warm your property is and how welcoming your property is to each tenant. Now, ideally, the heating control is 2 meters away from a radiator in a communal space, because then if it reaches that temperature, you know kind of that it's reached the available temperature. Now, I'm not going to discuss temperatures here, and again, tenant type and all those considerations come into play, but really important that you have an off-site controllable heating scheduled system, and that the tenants can boost that system as and when they want, and that you, again, in your house rules, have something about fair usage of the boosting system, so it's not just boost, 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 boost all day. Finally, play. Play is something that is really, really important when you're considering the HMO. Live, work, and play are 3 separate items. Now, a lot of tenants, and certainly I'm one of them, love to do things like online gaming. They love to bike. They may have to store sports equipment. And you need to make sure that the provisions are there for those people to do so. The first thing is high-speed internet. You have to have high-speed internet within your HMO, especially if you're going for the busy professional. If you're not going for a busy professional and you're going for a co-living environment, then it should be dictated what type of internet you'll get by the provider or social housing provider or student provider that you will be liaising with. But most tenants that I know, and most of the people that I know from my communities, love to online game. It's a big thing in 2023. It's a big thing generally in life, and it should be something that you should consider making sure that your bandwidth is big enough for gaming, because it is something that it helps a tenant to relax. It's something that they can do in the privacy of their own rooms, and generally, have a good time on site. Sports equipment. Things like bikes. Have you got storage for the bikes for tenants? You don't want them leaving bikes in the communal spaces. Have a bike rack somewhere on site is the ideal scenario. Other large pieces of sports equipment could also be stored in that area. We have one tenant that kayaks, for example. He leaves his kayaks in the bike storage area. It's a great idea to have that as an area, because ultimately these things take up a lot of space in somebody's room. Especially, I've seen bikes in rooms and it just makes it an absolute mess. The rooms are getting knocked and torn to pieces by these bikes because they're traipsing them through in all weathers. So make sure that you're considering how is this person going to enjoy their free time, and make sure they have high-speed internet and somewhere to store heavy sports equipment. And that's it. That's it for my HMO mini-series. Appreciate that this one was a shorter one, just focused on what tenants want. But that's it. So we've gone through space, lights and rights, and I look forward to the webinar on that. We've had location, talking about specifically considerations with respect to that. We've had finance, the game of two halves. We've had build better, ready, steady, go in the build process, and now live, work and play, what tenants really want. And we hope you've enjoyed the mini-series, and we look forward to seeing you on some of the group webinars. And let's get on with our HMO building processes. You take care. Bye for now.